Happy Wednesday, Broncos Country. This is Let's Talk Broncos. Bree Maestas, Zach Seegers typing away furiously over there, and Joey Richards. We're back with another episode. Excited to be here. We lost Paton and Will Keys today, but that's all right. We know what we're doing here on the show. Excited to see everyone tuning in already. That's fun and interesting. If you want to help us out, retweet the stream. Zach, you announced it on Monday, but I think you should catch any of the stragglers from then. Anything new and interesting happened with Let's Talk Broncos recently?
Yeah, we got the brand new website, letstalkbroncos.com launched. That's going great. Everything is running well over there, getting more and stuff up and running. I'll have a free agency grades piece up early tomorrow morning, so check that out. I've got another article today coming out about Sean Payton being one of the NFL's highest paid head coaches, and how, maybe we should be expecting a little more out of him than what we got that first year. And then what else? Lots of stuff coming out. Joey just dropped his first mock draft on the site. People were giving him a ton of shit for that. So if you want to be mad at Joey, if you want to get your torch and pitchfork out, letstalkbroncos.com. It's right there at the top of the website.
Yeah,
you couldn't possibly miss it. I also want to say, I noticed on our last episode, when I was gone, you guys got a ton of super chats. I'm not going to take that personally, and I'm going to say thank you very much to our listeners for supporting us. This is a PBS NPR situation. We are brought to you by viewers like you. So thank you for supporting the show and helping us create this content for you all. That's my spiel.
Yeah, and if you guys do read my mock draft and have something bad to say about it, you can guys just go on the Twitter, find me at Zach Seegers, at Zach_Seegers. Just let me have it. Let them know how much you hate it and everything like that. So yeah, I just want to get that out of the way.
It's Zach_Seegers, so you're tweeting at the right person.
Zach Seegers. Let him know.
Oh, who does have your Twitter handle, by the way? Have we ever tried to buy that back from them? Or because whoever has Bree Maestas has pissed me off for a very long time, which is why I'm Bree Maestas 303. You can follow me over there. Zach is doing the Wi-Fi game tonight. That's what's up. Let's see how many times he mutes himself as we move forward. Let's talk Broncos.com. Go on over there right now. He should take the super chats personally. Honestly, if we're being real about it, we got to throw that out there. But appreciate everybody tuning in. We also don't want to leave our audience hanging till the end of the show. Should we let them know who our special guest is this Friday?
Yeah, I think it is time, Bree. And guest is Caden Stearns, Texas Longhorn. The Broncos pretty much are the Texas Longhorns now. It's pretty crazy. I can't wait to talk to Caden about that, just to see how hyped up he is, because from the sound of it and looking at his Twitter, man, that locker room's got to be insane. I feel bad for Nick Benito and some of those other Oklahoma guys. The Longhorns are running the locker room now.
Or Alabama. Patrick Surtain wasn't too happy about it either. Now that Brandon Jones joins the secondary there, I think they were also looking at another Texas candidate. It's now the Broncos, what even would you call them? The Texas Saints Broncos. Anyways, Zach, are you back there yet? How are you feeling about that? Zach is in an undisclosed location in southern Colorado, and he may or may not be able to hear us. Caden Stearns is a wonderful guest. We've had the opportunity to interview him before. Him alongside PJ Locke is always a fun interview. Looking forward to that. And as I teased on Monday, you're going to want to wait for our announcement of a very fun April interview as well, coming at you here on letstalkbroncos.com, Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. And last but not least, I got to get to it, guys. How should the Broncos country feel now that we made it through the free agency period? Denver Broncos didn't make a move on a quarterback. I've seen everything from very excited to kind of upset that they weren't able to get it done. Billy Hellman over on YouTube, we appreciate you so much. You're always the first one to comment that. We really like that you're able to do that for us. So we're going to highlight your comment. And if you want to get your comments and questions highlighted, join the chat. Zach thinks he's back. He's not.
He's not. Wow, what a face though.
I know, we should screenshot that. Okay, Joey, give me your first initial thoughts on no QB signed for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I personally feel like I don't really care. If I'm being quite frank with everybody, here's my take.
Okay.
Nobody the Broncos were going to go out into free agency and sign at the quarterback position was going to be good enough. There's none of them. It was Kirk Cousins, and then you're going through the bargain bin of guys that have already proven that they're not good enough. I don't care who you're talking about. All of them aren't good enough. They're off a roster for a reason. It's the most important position in football. I promise you they'd still be on their team if they were any good. So I don't really care. I don't really care who the Broncos bring in. There's different levels of not good enough. The grand theme, none of them will be good enough, though. If you were looking for the Broncos to draft good enough at the quarterback or get good enough at the quarterback position, it's going to have to come through the draft. It's not coming through free agency.
All right, I don't love you talking shit about Kirk Cousins, but I want to hear what Zach has to say about it. Were you surprised by no move?
Oh, I mean, Kirk Cousins can take all the shit in the world. My man can buy his own chain of Kohl's at this point. He's got money 4 days. I have no pity for him. I think he's a fine quarterback. But to Joey's point, if you want to get to good enough, which unfortunately for the Broncos in the AFC West means going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, I don't think anyone would confidently say Kirk Cousins is that guy off an Achilles tear. No matter how many dolphin sex noises he's been playing, I would not have that level of confidence. So that's apparently the cure. That's how you get ready by week 17 and don't play. Anyways, the tangent. It's not coming in free agency, barring like the extreme outlier. I do think maybe there's a chance Dak Prescott forces his way out of Dallas. But more often than not, even then, it's going to be a trade situation. And the Broncos have seen firsthand how disastrous that can be. I agree with Joey. It's going to happen through the draft. And I think the frustration here is, I don't know, it's a result of the Broncos being in a poor position to address the quarterback problem and the fan base being so starved. I mean, it's been a decade because even in 2015, there wasn't good quarterback play. It's been a decade since there's been good quarterback play in Denver. And so people are like, okay, I'm ready. Let's come on, hurry up. Let's get it here. And I'm totally with that. I totally agree with that to an extent, but they're just not in position to do it. With the Giants cutting Daniel Jones, it looks like they're going to take a quarterback at 6. The top 3 are probably going off the board 1, 2, 3. And QB5 is not worth taking in the first round, let alone at pick 12. It was never likely that the Broncos were going to solve their quarterback conundrum this offseason. This is the clearing the way offseason. Next offseason, expect your solution.
So I do have to point out, Zach, the fact that they haven't gone out there and signed a guy, like when I'm looking at the Sam Darnold situation, right? It's been reported that, the Broncos did have interest in Sam Darnold. They just kind of got outpriced. If it were really like I'm looking for a starter or I'm looking for somebody to start the entire season, I don't think $10 million is outpricing you for Sam Darnold.
No.
Which kind of leads me to believe that the Broncos feel comfortable with what's going to happen in the draft. I don't know where exactly that is, whether it be pick 12 or later on in the draft, but I think they're eyeing somebody because of that. Quite frank, I do believe that. And it could be Bo Nix. It could be Michael Penix. It could be one of those guys. I would just hope that it's not at pick 12. As you've always mentioned, Zach, it's a lot easier moving off these rookie quarterbacks, like drafting them and having them start a year isn't the issue. You can move off of that guy. It's when you put a ton of assets into him, a ton of money into him, it makes it hard to get off of. A la Russell Wilson, we're seeing that right now. So I think you could, put a third-round pick or a second-round pick if you wanted to trade up into a quarterback and then still be in the quarterback market next year if that guy didn't play good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're in love with one of these draft guys because then why are you in the Sam Darnold market? Why are you being connected to some of these other veterans or like making a play for Kirk Cousins if it's like, well, we love JJ McCarthy. You know what I mean? I think then those are the rumors we're hearing, like, oh, the Broncos are calling the Patriots as the Patriots are rumored to trade down. I don't know. And maybe it is a mid-round guy. Maybe it's Spencer Pratt. I agree with your conclusion that the read I'm getting from the Broncos is they're comfortable with what's going to happen. I think they know that as a fallback, they can get Jimmy Garoppolo on the vet minimum as a placeholder for a year. And that grosses me out too, from like a having to watch it standpoint, but from like a, hey, we're fine being bad. This is a rebuilding season. That's all the signs we're getting right now, is that they're kind of tearing it down and they're going to not be great in 2024. If you're knowing that, like, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo is a like top 40 NFL quarterback and he's going to cost us a vet minimum deal. Like, he is a bargain at that point. In the same way Russell Wilson's a bargain. So I don't know. It's boring, but like, I think if you're the Broncos, you're looking at just the market, and there's so many of these. Daniel Jones just got released, and he's going to sign for probably in that 10 million ballpark, and is a much better quarterback than Sam Darnold. Like, he's not good, but from everything we've seen in the NFL, like
even
Sam
with
Darnold,
the injury concerns is my question, Zach, because that's pretty broad for Daniel Jones, who's missed 21 games over the last 5 seasons. That's a lot.
I think that's fair, but like, Sam Darnold wasn't the like pinnacle of health when he was a starting quarterback, to be fair. Granted, some of that was mononucleosis. But I don't know. I'm not that worried about it, because even if he's a little less healthy, he's a lot better of an NFL quarterback. I think, what's the term? I can't think of it right now, but I think so much of this is like landmarked based off the fact that Sam Darnold was widely thought of as the QB1 in his draft, went top 3, was hyped up as this like superstar, like prospect or whatever. The Daniel Jones has been like a functional, solid NFL quarterback. I think everyone thought the Giants overpaid for him last year, but there was also a reason they were uncomfortable, like giving him the franchise tag, and kind of like wanted to extend him long-term. In a way that's never come close to happening for Sam Darnold. So a point being, there's a ton of other options out there. There's even worse ones. If you want to be really bad, there's bad options out there for the Broncos to lose games. I wouldn't be that pressed about it. Right now, my top priority would be Justin Fields. The Broncos are now 15th in the NFL in draft capital, so I'm not that worried about giving up a 6th round pick or whatever it's going to cost to get him. And he is far more upside than anyone else available right now. And I think his floor is comparable to a lot of the options right now. No, he's not the best fit for a Sean Payton offense, but I don't think that pivot would be that hard to pull off, considering Payton's experience with Taysom Hill and just general offensive creativity.
So just from a pure spectator's stance, I would love Justin Fields just because I think it would be the most fun, right? Like, watching my quarterback possibly have 1,000 rushing yards would be really, really fun. And we know Sean Payton can implement that type of stuff with, we saw with the Taysom Hill type quarterback. My question to you guys is, I understand, Zach, your preference would be Justin Fields. Do either of you guys have a prediction, though? Do you think they sign anybody at all? And if so, do you have a prediction of who that would be?
I think at this point, it is getting way too bottom of the barrel to have any confidence that the Broncos are looking at a veteran bridge or a intermediate bridge. Kathy threw out the idea of how about Sam Howell to Denver talk? How do you feel about that? I want to press that to you guys as well. But it's looking as though it'll be in the draft. I just don't think it's going to be at pick 12. My prediction is it's a trade back scenario, and that there's a reason why there doesn't seem to be a sense of panic. I know a couple of names have been tied to Denver. I don't believe Fields to Denver. I don't believe any of the other floating rumors out there, because nothing that's sitting in a comfortable level for the Broncos to move forward with it, just confidence exists right at this present moment. It's the same as it was last season. We thought the QB carousel was insanity last year. This year is marked by a lot of mid-tier movement. Zach's already pointed it out. There are better choices out there, but they're all falling in the same scope of not really great. And that's not what the Broncos are going for. Why wouldn't they roll with Stidham? They know what he's capable of. They know that it's going to be on point and similar to what they got out of Russell Wilson, at least to carry them over the threshold into 2025, and then hope whoever they draft is ready to go in the years to come. That to me sounds like the most successful move. It's the cheaper move, and it allows them to have some form of growth while consistently sticking to the rebuild mindset. Because if you make any other choice, you're basically not buying in. It's like putting your toe in the water and not jumping in entirely. So I think that points to them being gung-ho about the idea. And as we're all talking about it, if they go in a different direction, I think I'll be a little upset about it. Mm-hmm. Zach. It's great points.
No, right. We were supposed to let it go. We were supposed to let it see how long.
I'm still wondering how long.
Okay, I'll give a pretty. He's muted forever on this one. He can't even figure out.
He can't even unmute the. Oh no!
That was every single show. Okay. What the hell? What do you think he just said? Let's get him out.
I don't know. Let's go, probably. All
right.
Joey, did that answer your question sufficiently enough? How would you feel about Sam Howell?
Yeah, no, I think Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell could be just a good option. I mean, I would feel bad for the guy because he would be doing exactly what he did last year. Where you draft him, you bring him in, and he's up out of there fast and in a hurry. I think that's ultimately what would happen in Denver. You'd be here for a season, and then you'd probably try to get rid of him next year. So, yeah, I could get behind it. Another young option, maybe with some potential there. I see the chat saying, give me Spencer Rattler. I know David Talks Broncos is a big Spencer Rattler type guy. To answer his earlier question, I don't know if any scouts were at Spencer Rattler's pro day. I do know scouts were at Bo Nix's pro day. I would guess those scouts were also at South Carolina's pro day for sure. So, yeah.
I wonder, Zach, do you have anything to add to that one? Beautiful. Good to know. David Talks Broncos, we appreciate you. Thanks, David. Milton said, Milton would be hilarious, disastrous, entertaining as hell. Talk about entertaining options.
I would be down with a Rattler gamble.
Whoa, get him out of here. Okay.
Whoa, that was crazy. It was like he was throwing his voice like a ventriloquist. That was amazing. Talk to me about entertaining options. All right, Milton. But what about Zach Wilson? Entertaining? Justin Fields entertaining?
Justin Fields very entertaining. Zach Wilson. Okay, I'll tell you why Zach Wilson would be entertaining. Because if you wanted a cherry on top of Sean Payton saying cherry on top of Sean Payton claiming that Nathaniel Hackett just sucks, that would be it right there. That's why it would be entertaining. The jokes come first, so I'm here for Zach Wilson.
Okay, well, the joke options is exactly why I was pissed off that Drew Lock got picked up elsewhere. May he find all of the success that he can. We can't be bad and boring. Choose one, Broncos. Thanks, Dal. I think that's really a great point to make. These fans, if you're bad, boring, indifferent, a snooze fest, you're going to have a lot of intoxicated fans at Mile High. And that's the last thing you want going on when your team is also terribly bad. You'll have a bunch of opposing fans. You'll just have a melee of all types of sorts. And nobody needs or wants that. Zach Seegers, good to see you. Where did you come from? Where have you been all my life?
Restarting my computer. I was losing my damn mind. It was lagging so hard I couldn't click anything because everything kept moving around the screen. That was the most maddening moment of my life. Shout out to the dang near 1,300 people we have watching us right now concurrently. I think this is the most we've ever had. Shout out all of you. That's awesome. I'll say really quick on the Rattler thing. That was the last thing I remember us talking about. I like it. I think it's a fun upside swing for the Broncos. I think it's maybe the cheapest fun upside swing they have outside of like a Justin Fields, or those two are at least comparable. Just have it on a short leash. If he's bad, or if he doesn't look like the guy in year one, move on. Like, I do not want to be here in 2025 hearing about how like, oh, the Broncos shouldn't draft a guy. They need to be patient with Rattler, as I heard with Locke for like 4 seasons. That will drive me up a wall. They need to draft a guy top 10. And they need to stop doing these half measures around the quarterback position. Try and find your franchise quarterback like every other successful franchise has tried doing.
Yeah.
I'm over here trying to handle something off screen. Sorry about that. Care said, I'll take Knicks. He has the highest floor. Jaden can't read defenses. That's an interesting take that I want to hear Joey give me a little bit of feedback on, specifically the Jaden Daniels narrative. I know another quarterback who's coming up in probably next year's draft also gets that same kind of topic read about them. Obviously, talking about Shedeur Sanders. What about can't read defenses? I don't know if I believe that out of either quarterback.
Yeah, I think Jaden has improved drastically as a passer through the seasons. I mean, I remember him at Arizona State. I don't know if you guys remember that, throwing the Brandon Ayuk and stuff down there. I've been watching Jaden Daniels for a while, and just year after year, I've seen him improve as a passer pretty dramatically. I think his deep ball is the best part of his game, and he's getting more comfortable as a middle of the field thrower. He's still not all the way there, but you like to see the improvements. And it's not like he has a huge block like Russell Wilson has with the height, right? Like that's part of the issue there. So I don't know if I'm on that level with Jaden Daniels, but I think his biggest worry is his frame. I'd be seriously, I think that's his biggest worry, matched with the way of his playing, the way he plays. He plays so absurdly reckless. Like, when everyone was moving him off the draft boards, was driving me insane. And I know Zach can vouch for me on this. I was like, why is nobody talking about his play style match with his frame? Because I've seen him try to hurdle nose guards in the A gap. Like, that's not okay. You can't do that. You cannot do that. He has to learn to slide. My worry is, he's getting a lot of Lamar Jackson type comps. My worry would be that he's more RG3, where he had a shorter career because of that.
I would fully agree. And I would honestly say to him, spend an offseason with Lamar Jackson. Like, have your agent get in touch with his agent. Spend time with Lamar Jackson. Because one of Lamar Jackson's greatest superpowers is his ability to avoid contact. He will run up the middle through a crowd of people and barely get touched. And it's not just sliding. He knows how to fall. Tua was doing that goofy jujitsu stuff, but like it's come naturally to Lamar Jackson. He's, I don't know, Gumby-ish. Like, he's just able to bounce off these things effortlessly. And I do think some of it's a skill. Some of it might be just like, I don't know, so intuitive that it's not something you can learn, and it wouldn't be there for Daniels. But yeah, he's got to learn how to minimize his contact, because it's just, he won't survive with his frame in the NFL. I think Joey has made this point earlier in the offseason, and it's a great one. Look at Anthony Richardson, this guy who was like the most insane athlete we've ever seen at the quarterback position, a guy of like Cam Newton-esque size and stature, and he cannot stay healthy with the hits he's taking. Jaden Daniels is a shrimp compared to him. Like, that's going to not go up. And not only that, Jaden Daniels throws himself into much more harm's way, like dramatically more. So that's my big concern with him. I think the claim he couldn't read defenses is bonkers. That's bananas. He can absolutely read defenses. I think he's a very mentally sharp quarterback. I don't think he's like Andrew Luck, but that's not a pressing concern of mine. I think Bo Nix also has a very, very low floor. Things have been set up for him very, very well in Oregon this year. And I think it's a little unfair to base too much of your grade off of like going back to Auburn and watching that tape, because he's 2-3 years removed from that at this point. But we've seen what he looks like in an unideal circumstance, and it's chaotic. He breaks down like mentally. Bo Nix used to be a meme among college football fans because of that. Like, in the same way Drew Lock haters would make fun of a Drew Lock. But on steroids, like he was such a chaotic player. I don't know. I don't see him as like a high floor option. I think there's a good chance he's a backup. I think there's a very good chance he's out of the league in a year and a half. I'm done.
That's an interesting one. Out of the league, year and a half. We'll have to see how that one pans out. David Talks Buffs also wanted to know, or he's in here as David Talks Broncos. Fooled me once. Wanted to know earlier if we knew if Denver Broncos were at Bo Nix's pro day. You said the magic words. You reminded me. Joey said thumbs up. Yes.
Yes,
See?
they were at Bo Nix pro day. Scouts were.
Okay.
We don't know about Rattler.
Okay, sounds good. Guys, I wanna pivot just a little bit because we've been talking a lot about what the Broncos have and really haven't done during free agency here, but there were a lot of moves. It was basically a dumpster fire for some teams. It was a hot sale for a bunch of others. Thrift store items were going up on the shelves, and there was a mad dash on every position except for safety. That leaves a lot of question marks around the league, but what were the most shocking moves for you around the NFL during the free agency period?
I'll let you go first, Zach.
I mean, this is a little Broncos related. It's the one that immediately comes to mind. The Lloyd Cushenberry contract. I don't. That really surprised me. Like looking at the center market right now, there's like top 5, top 10 centers making like the 8-9 million range. I thought that's where Cushenberry's value would be inflated to. The fact he's now the highest paid center in NFL history, at least in terms of guaranteed money, which so often with these free agency contracts, that's all that ends up mattering, is wild to me. It's not a move I would have made. I'm happy for Lloyd Cushenberry. Like, man, get your bag. I'm glad the Broncos didn't spend that money. I think that would have been a very scary thing to do. Happy letting him walk. I think it worked out on all sides, but yeah, I'd be surprised if the Titans are loving that contract or the Ridley one. Great comment from Nick Beckwith. That one was also wildly surprising to me that his value was still north of like 20 million or around that 20 million range. I think those are two contracts where it's just like, yep, those are free agency contracts that are going to be regretted in a year or two. There's so many of those where I think you just can look at it and be like, yeah, they're not going to DeAndre Swift with the Bears. They're not going to like that in a couple of years. I promise you.
Yeah. The one highlighted here is exactly the one I was going to say. The Ridley one's kind of crazy to me. The Titans refuse to give A.J. Brown 4 years for $100 million, but they're willing to give Calvin Ridley 4 for 92 at 30 years old. That just seems wild to me. I think that was probably the craziest one I've seen. I think just the guard market in general has shocked me. I didn't expect it to be as high as it is. I'm sitting there wanting Quinn Miners to close his eyes because, please, God, don't hit us over the head like that, Quinn, please.
Yeah. Raiders spending a ton. Sorry. Raiders spending a ton on Christian Wilkins too. That one surprised me. I think he's a good defensive lineman, but like that's a premium amount of cap. And then they've already got all that money tied up in Max Crosby, a top 7 pick tied up in Tyree Wilson, which so far looks like an abject disaster. With what they're investing, it's not that dissimilar from like what the 49ers had invested in their line 3-4 years ago or whatever, or what the Commanders had recently invested in their line. You kind of need elite returns from that group if you're going to have that many assets tied up with it. And I think it's still hard for me to imagine the Raiders looking good on that side of the ball or even like that elite up front, despite all their investments there.
All right, guys, quick aside while I go into this, breaking up this conversation. Sorry, Joe, if you had something to say, I have to interject it before I forget. Jerry Jeudy goes with number 3 with the Browns. I know we're moving on from our X's and not looking into the past, but number 3 doesn't seem like a wide receiver number. How do you feel about it? Just real quickly.
I like
What's the number of drops he averages per game? Hey, yo, I'm on
you don't get to use that argument now that he's off the team. Fuck you.
Also,
Joe.
The argument's not accurate. It was always a lie and a fake narrative, but continue, Jody.
Oh, my God.
I hated that joke, Zach. Anyways, carry on, Brie.
Moving on. Okay, we got to the most shocking free agency moves. That's fine. Broncos run tree keeps antagonizing me to continue to do this, so I'm going to do so as well. And if you're watching over on Twitter, I can see all of you over there. If you want to actually banter back and forth alongside us, please go over to YouTube and search Let's Talk Broncos. You can also go to letstalkbroncos.com and click on the YouTube. There's a link below in the thread. I can see all of you. You're lonely. Come on over and talk to us, just like Dal, Broncos Run Tree, Dave Talks Broncos, Nick Beckwith, Care, Joe Pops. Joe Pops is a new name, and he asked a question. Well, new to me. Don't yell at me. Would it be worth it to move up a few spots for JJ? We have this conversation about every couple of days, both in our chats and on Let's Talk Broncos. Anybody's mind change a little bit? Anybody less flighty on the idea of JJ McCarthy? Because I think you got a JJ McCarthy and a Drake Nugent, and you've got a recipe for success. If you go in that direction, if you don't go in that direction, you don't have the picks, you can't make it happen. You got to figure it out. Otherwise, I'm okay with JJ McCarthy. I think he'd be fun upside. Maybe he is just a game manager. What the hell did Brock Purdy get accomplished? Just because of where they were drafted doesn't entail success. I don't know. JJ seems like a fun choice for me.
Yeah. Here's what I will say. If the Broncos did move up to get JJ McCarthy, I would say it's very exciting. Because from my stance, I wouldn't do it because I don't have all the information the Broncos have. Like, I'm not sitting into the room next to the guy and being able to interview him. And because for a JJ McCarthy-esque player who has such a low career attempts, he's not been a volume thrower ever. I would really need to believe in the person. And if the Broncos traded up to draft him, they really believe in him. They really believe in him. So I would say, yes, I would be okay with it because that means the Broncos really believe in him. And I would fall in line. If Sean says this is our guy, I would say this is our guy until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I know it's oddly a contentious opinion in Broncos country right now, but I'm kind of with Joey. I'm going to defer to Payton on the quarterback position. If I personally am making that decision, though, no, I don't think it is. I'm not that convicted on JJ McCarthy. And I think this question has really like crystallized for me my opinions on him as like a prospect. I'm fine with him being taken at 12. I just would not feel comfortable trading up. Trading up for a quarterback is generally going to cost you a first rounder the next year. And like, I don't feel super confident that JJ McCarthy's better than QB1 next year. And that pick that you might be trading to go up and get JJ McCarthy, I mean, we just learned with trading a high pick for Russell Wilson, it might be in range of that like franchise quarterback you are so desperately craving. It wouldn't surprise me that the Broncos, the super chat totally made me lose my train of thought, but I don't feel comfortable making that swing for JJ McCarthy. I think he's a good, not great prospect. And yeah, I wouldn't do it. If they have that level of conviction, I'd be hyped though, because hey, maybe we're close to having an answer in Broncos country.
Somebody blow the alarm. I don't know which one we have. I think we have an air horn. David Talks Broncos. Go ahead and sends us a super chat. Biggest losers of free agency. I really like Jared's point about Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles in division. It got a lot of heat. It got a lot of hate. The Cowboys aren't making any moves. The Titans are paying just about everybody anything. The Broncos haven't made any moves. Except I'm not going to say that. That seems insincere. But I do have a question for you guys after this. Joey threw his hand up first. You go.
The Buffalo Bills, I think.
Ooh, I like that pick.
I do like that.
Getting rid of players. Mitch Morse, Tre'Davious White, both their safeties. Who is here to replace these players? That is my question. I mean, you are in Josh Allen's prime right now. You want to be a contending team, and you didn't win a Super Bowl last year, yet you're getting worse. So I think the Bills.
I like it. Yeah, it does feel like this is a big drop off for them. In terms of like who's taking the biggest fall, I think I'd probably agree. In terms of, I think, who's having the worst free agency, for me, it's the Tennessee Titans. I look at like every contract they've signed, and I think it has massive bust potential, and it makes me extremely queasy. They go sign Calvin Ridley for $23 million a year. Yikes, that's scary. They sign a running back who's never been like a lead back in Tony Pollard for $8 million a year. That's very troubling. I don't love the idea. Like, I'm fine with on occasion paying like a veteran running back, but when that's part of this turd Sunday we have, it is also part of the turd Sunday. You know, it's pretty gross. So you're paying big money for a running back. You're way overpaying for Calvin Ridley. You gave Lloyd Cushenberry one of the very biggest center contracts in NFL history. You're making Chidobe Awuzie nearly a top 10 highest paid cornerback in the league. You're giving Kenneth Murray, who is getting benched by the Chargers for last season until injuries forced him back into the starting lineup, a contract that's paying him a good bit more than Josie Jewell's making. Yikes. All 5 of those, I would give like a D at best if I were to grade the Titans signings. I think there's a good chance they all wind up being Fs. This is a franchise that's trying to dig themselves out of a hole that's not that dissimilar from the one the Broncos are trying to dig themselves out of, and they are making every wrong decision imaginable in my mind. I actually think the Broncos are pretty big free agency winners. The signings have not been blockbuster deals by any means, but if I were to draw up in a lab what I want the Broncos free agency period to look like in 2024, this is exactly it. They need to be cheap. They need to be kind of shrewd with their money, and I think that's what they're doing. It's small, cheap signings that aren't going to put you in a bad position, that are with players that are young, fill a clear role, and have a good bit of upside. That applies to Brandon Jones. It's very possible his best football is ahead of him. I think it's damn likely PJ Locke's best football is ahead of him. Malcolm Roach, another guy, young, like could come in year 1, be the best run stopper on the team, something they desperately need, and do it for cheap.
Broncos Country isn't being stingy either, dropping a super chat on us just to say, Broncos Country, let's run. Definitely. I thought there'd at least be some running back conversations going on. I do think I agree with the Broncos heading in the right direction. Listen, I've got trepidation, hesitation. I'm a little PTSD'd out over here on what the Broncos have done or have planned to do in the past. So you're going to have to bear in mind with me when I ask you this next question. But as the world turns, the Broncos are cutting a lot of money with cap space. They're doing a remarkable job of doing so. They're restructuring deals. They are trying to make it less onersome throughout the next couple of seasons, which I think is a bold yet appropriate move as we talk about how much they're really at stake for. Not only did they make their bed, they had to deal with all those wrinkles that set in there because they didn't dry theirs correctly. So let's talk just a little bit about what it means moving forward in the expectation period, because I'm someone who came in a little bit scared of Sean Payton, and now how much, I'm not even going to say leash, that's a dirty word around these parts, but let's talk about what do you have to see from Sean Payton in the next 2 seasons, not including roster building, but success of the program to continue to have not blind faith. I'm not trying to put words in your guys' mouth, but you're saying you trust Sean Payton at every turn. When does that change? And how do you see the intersecting point for Broncos Country as they continue to watch this happen, and yet they were on the lower vantage point coming in?
I would say not every turn. Don't trust Sean Payton at every turn. This is a egotistical, narcissistic man who's done some very questionable things in his life. I would not implicitly trust Sean Payton. I'd say that's a poor idea. Would I trust him implicitly with the quarterback position? Absolutely. I think he's maximized every single quarterback he's touched, including the guy who entered the league as a 34-year-old tight end or whatever the hell Taysom Hill was. So I think I strongly trust him at that position. Otherwise, he deserves scrutiny, I think, for this past year. What I would tell Broncos Country, I think this year you want them to look like the first year of the Dan Campbell Lions. That's where this team is right now. I don't think it's where you want this team to be. Broncos Country has been waiting 8-9 years. They're already impatient. Unfortunately, the rebuild effort is only starting now. So we've got to be patient now. I want to see a well-coached team that is playing hard for its coach or coaches, both offense and defense, that's engaged, that is fighting hard to win, and you're not winning a lot of games. Like, I want to see a strong culture and like good coaching. And frankly, I think that's exactly what we saw last year. Like, this was not a very talented team. I keep asking people, what's the position group that was above average on the 2023 Denver Broncos? Maybe there's 1 or 2, but like, that's it. This was not a talented roster last year. And they had a 70% chance of making the playoffs in week 15. Like, I think that's immaculate and really good coaching. This team had a one-legged running back leading the way and an incredibly predictable passing game that was very easy to defend. And it resulted in them still having the ninth best down-to-down rushing game in the league in terms of success rate. So I'd say look for that. Like, look for good coaching, look for the offense outperforming its talent value, and look for like the symptoms of a good team culture forming. Because I think a lot of people are going to unfairly be like, oh, you got rid of Russ and they still lost. Yeah. 2024 is going to have some losing. It's going to suck. That's kind of part of this healthy rebuild the Broncos are doing. I get Broncos fans that over the last decade, every year it's like, ooh, we've gotten a little better, and now we're going to compete for the 7th seed. Damn. All right, now we've gotten a little better, and we're going to compete for the 7th seed. Damn. And it's just been that cycle, 8 years. And last year they came so close. I feel so many people are bracing for that same thing. Hey, in July, we're going to be talking about how we're competing for the 7th seed. No, we're not. That's not the thing this year. It's about building the foundation. So let's see a good foundation be laid.
Yeah, I agree with Zach. My whole thing is I just want to see the plan before I just go out there scolding. I think that's fair, right? Like with Hackett, I think the difference was we were seeing the plan in action year one. In Sean Payton's time with the Broncos, he took Hackett's Broncos. Like it was a very much like different situation, and trying to do with what we just learned wasn't good enough. So I think that's kind of my thing. I mean, I do have a criticism of Payton, and that would just be that I would have liked to see them sell at the deadline, and they didn't. That's something that I think was important. I think just because of a Chiefs victory, one win doesn't define an entire season, and I think the Broncos have kind of shown that this year. With a lot of turnover luck and a lot of different things that were happening, they were able to go on a little bit of a winning streak there. But at the end of the day, it just pushed the Broncos into a later pick. Who wouldn't like now a top 5 pick? We could really be talking about quarterback in the future of this team right now. So coming off of year one, that would be my biggest criticism of Sean Payton. Going into year 2, I'm a lot like Zach. I just want to see the team compete. I think because he is now cleaning the Hackett Broncos, I'm expecting them to lose. Now, how there's still victories you can have while losing that can show you're a good head coach, and that's what I want to see.
I just feel like we're on the anticipatory ledge of the one side, and I don't want to say there's only 2 sides to Broncos country. It's very nuanced, and there's a lot of us, and you come find us. Bree Maces 303, Zach _Seegers, Joey Richards is at Art Drafts. I'm struggling with some of the moves that were made, and I understand some football moves. I understand having to clear cap space. I understand having to, make up for a decade of WTFs. I understand trying to do the best by a player, but also having to make these football moves. I understand the safety market being what it is in the NFL. I don't feel great about how I viewed the Broncos in the last 30 years to how I viewed the Broncos in the last 20 years, how I viewed them in the last 10 years. Like, those are eras, those are changes, those are different ways of thinking. And I'm obviously just referencing the move from Justin Simmons. I think it goes a little bit deeper than just the player, just than more the ability to say there's an appreciable difference from safety, 1 in the league to 3 in the league, just because he's a little bit more expensive. To me, that just felt like the wrong move overall, and it kind of dashed some mud onto my already low standard there for Sean Payton. And I get it. I understand. In order to make these big moves moving forward, change up the roster, go with young over, Pro Bowl, probably Hall of Famer of the future, Justin Simmons. I get those moves. I just don't like the aftertaste that they left in my mouth. And it's going to take at least 3 years to probably wash that from my memory. So I just wanted to end with that little notion because we were talking about Sean Payton. Zach, I think you had a question for us.
Well, yeah, I do. I will say just really quick on the Simmons thing, because I think it's a good point. Like, this is a sad time to be a Broncos fan. I think you can make a strong argument like the last 9 years, and we're not out of the woods yet. The last 9 years have been the darkest chapter in Broncos franchise history. I think it's a very easy argument to make. You could also choose like 1960 through 1969. But it's one of those 2 9-year sets. You know, it is very rough out there. What I would say is Sean Payton didn't put him in a position where they are $20 million in the red no matter what this offseason. You know, I think like that's a George Payton invention. And I think now Sean Payton is making the final calls, and he deserves to be blamed for, well, not blamed, but like held responsible for his piece in it, because he could have done other moves that weren't cutting Justin Simmons. But the fact that the Broncos are in this position where they have to start tearing things down is a result of the roster construction that he inherited. The individual decisions on how he goes about that at this point are his own, though, of course, and he should be held accountable for those. My question, kind of to this point, with like Sean Payton making decisions that are criticized and whatnot. How many games do you think Russell Wilson misses next year due to talent issues? I guess, how many games do you think Russ is benched for next year? 0 is a valid answer here. But I'm curious. I don't think the Steelers are necessarily beholden to making Russ their 17-game starter. I'm also not going to ding him for injuries. Injuries are a part of football. How many games this season, or like what week this season, do you think Mike Tomlin goes, let's see if Kenny Pickett's got something?
Week 11 or 12. When's the? I would need to see when the Steelers bye week is, because that's going to determine kind of where I land on. But I could see the line being at 3, and I could see it being around 3. And I would say it would be later in the season. But honestly, that's just wishful thinking at this point. Joey's throwing up the O. He's saying goose egg.
I think that like to be benched, I feel like for what he's being paid right now, I don't think the Steelers really are signing him thinking he's going to be really good. And I do think that he is the starter next year. The other option is Kenny Pickett, who you just signed to replace. I think that it's 0, and it's going to be a drag offensively through the season, but they're just going to stick with Russ through it. And I do think that'll be the case. I don't think it'll be a situation similar to the Broncos, because the difference is Sean inherited Russell Wilson. Tomlin and them went out and signed Russell Wilson. That there's a big difference there. So I think I'm going to go 0.
For $1 million, I'd sign Russell Wilson just to say I could.
Yeah,
the other teams wanted to. that's
as a backup. Giants wanted him as a backup for 4
2 teams. There's 32.
But not all those 32 wanted him. I will say.
That's what I'm saying.
I think him on a minimum, like, I guess I don't think that's an argument for the Steelers being invested in him or the Steelers maintaining him as the starter. I kind of look at that and say they have no investment in him. Like the Broncos, if it was purely based on Russell Wilson's play, he would have been benched, that Colts game in 2022? Right. Like, he wasn't benched because, oh my God, we've got so much tied up in this guy. He's got to fucking work. Like that's why he wasn't benched sooner. So I think you look at this Steelers situation. I don't know. I think if it looks at all like the Broncos offense last year, where everything is so compressed and so predictable and so easy to defend, and it just feels so tight and so hard to do anything. And you still got a guy who you drafted in the first round on a rookie deal who, like they're saying right now, it's going to be a camp competition. I do expect Russ to win it, but I don't think he's going to play well enough for it to not be a question. And I think Pickett, although not great, is an option the Steelers are currently more invested in. Like they'll be paying him more next year than they will be paying Russ. And that's not to mention the pick investment. And that's an investment that this staff and this front office made. So I think Russ is going to have a long leash. I would put it around 3 or so. But oh my goodness, Paul, Jesus Christ. If I set the line at 1.5 with you, Joey, 1.5 games for Kenny Pickett or whoever the Steelers backup is, I don't know. I think
I wouldn't take the bet. I think that would be a good bet. I just think that the main point is that, like, the point I'm trying to make is that investment they're already trying to move off of in Kenny Pickett. Like going back to that totally. Struggle. That's my main point. But anyways, let's carry on.
Yeah, but anyways, let's move on. Does George Payton survive? From Dal. Check yes or no. I don't have a pen on me right now, Dal, but I think they're not that upset with his performance. Zach Sears is probably going to tell you something else. I'll let the boys answer.
How do the rookies look? I really think that's what it's going to come down to. I think Payton is still like the chief talent evaluator when it comes to the draft. I think Sean Payton's doing all the drafting, but I think George Payton is kind of not building the board, but kind of building the menu of players. I've used the analogy before that George Payton is building the menu and Sean Payton is ordering off it. If this rookie class is bad, or we're having similar complaints this season to what we've had this past seasons, free agency signings looking like busts or not playing or being injured, and the rookie class isn't making any impact whatsoever, that's when I think you see George Payton's head roll. Rightly or wrongly, I think it's probably more as a fall guy than anything. But that's when I think you'll see his head roll. And I think more likely than not that happens. I think he needs a really great rookie class to stick around, because they're going to lose a lot and there's going to be blame pointed around. And I think that's going to be pointed at George Payton. If he, let's say he gets Bowers or something in the first round, and year one, dude's a stud, awesome, best offensive player on the team. And then in round 3, he circles back and gets Michael Hall, the guy Joey listed. And he's a really good, edge tweener guy year one. And you have some big clear hits automatically. Then I think it would be pretty hard to fire George Payton, and he'd save his job. But I think he's entering the season in a position where he has to convince Payton or Sean Payton not to fire him, rather than, show that he's done a bad job and be fired. I think the default right now is firing.
I'm just going to quickly chime in here because I get it, right? There's a thin sheet of ice. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of underperforming return on investment with draft capital. It's the draft capital that the Broncos necessarily haven't had an abundance of. But George Payton's contract, 6 years-ish, and then to be able to accurately judge draft picks, rookie years, etc. That takes a little bit of time. His contract's going to expire before he has the opportunity to do so. So I just want to point that out. Carson Devitt says Payton gets a lot of blame, and deservedly so, but people seem to ignore his decision to let Draymond Jones walk and offer Zach Allen. It seems phenomenal. Joey.
Yeah, no, that's a great point as well. Yeah, I was completely wrong on this one. I thought Draymond was the better player, and I was critical of them moving off of him for Zach Allen. Zach Allen is the better football player through 1 year of him in Seattle and Zach Allen in Denver. So, yeah, I agree with this one. Give him props on that. I will say, Zach, I kind of disagree with you a little bit on this whole thing. And another area where we might be able to criticize Payton, Sean Payton, that is, going in the future, is I was listening to a former NFL scout talk the other day on a podcast, and he was just breaking down the importance of having people you trust in a draft room, and just people you know and people you really trust. I think George has been here 2 years now. He could have been gone this year. That lends me to believe that Sean actually does like this guy. He does, for whatever reason. I'm not sure. They might just he might respect George Payton a lot in the draft room and stuff like that, which would be an area, if it's underperforming, an area to criticize him for. But I don't think George Payton is going anywhere. I think he's going to stay as the Broncos general manager, even through their failures, if they do fail.
Yeah.
Sorry, Zach, I thought you were going to have a rebuttal. I dropped the ball there, but that's because I'm still so grateful for Paul's super chat. Paul breaks the record for our largest super chat. Paul, thank you so much. He said, thanks for all the great work that you do. No, Paul, thanks for tuning in. I don't think I've seen a YouTube stream in which you aren't here in attendance with us. So we want to give a special shout out to you because we appreciate that you not only tune in, you interact. great banter back and forth here in the YouTube chat. It means a lot to us. This keeps us going a little bit longer because, as Zach said to start the show, it's all PBS up in here. If you don't pay, we don't play. I'm just kidding. But we really do appreciate you. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I often don't think that I deserve to be up here with these guys. And I feel like it's an Emmy speech coming. I just want to say I'm really thankful. It makes me blush, and I get a little awkward when people do nice things for me. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll say thank you too. And kind of just branching off that point, like, thank you everyone for all your support. I mean, that goes to Joey and Bree getting behind me as I had this website idea and backing it, and giving me feedback when I needed it, or helping with different aspects of the project when I needed it. And I don't know, to just like my friends and family, all the like community we've accumulated. There's 2,000 people watching this right now live, like concurrently. That's insane. That's mind blowing to me. So grateful for that support, all of you. It means so much. It's very obvious. We don't have a lot of sponsors. I mean, it's something we want to have and everything, but our media company that we're launching right here is entirely fueled by you guys, the fans who show up and watch our stuff. And this level of generosity is entirely unrequired, but is so appreciated. So thank you so very much, Paul. That goes so far to like keeping the lights on at LTV. So that, like, it's just massive, truly. Even a single move like that. We are a small company. Things like that make a big difference. So I won't go on and on, but it is such a nice gesture. I feel like I have to be effusive with my gratitude. So thank you very much, Paul.
Like they said in the chat, Zach, we're going to get to your Wi-Fi before we keep the lights on in the media company. That's
yeah.
In rural Colorado. My Wi-Fi's great. All right, coming from you on Monday. This is rich.
If the Amish do it, you're fine. Carson also chimes in and says, "Young talent of Colorado." I want you guys to screenshot that, because that means I'm young. I still belong in the category. Let's go. Carson, brownie points to you, my good sir. I'm just going to let Paul's comment kind of hang out in the background as we vamp on, because we do have a lot of viewers. If you want your questions answered and you're sending them over on Twitter furiously, stop it. Go on over to YouTube. We're going to be here for just a little bit longer, because I want to see how long Zach will stay on with fuzzy internet. Kathy, you all are the reason why we are all here. You do a great job. We just enjoy it. Kathy, so sweet. Thank you. You're the best. Bree, not a boomer maestus. Someone called me a boomer in Monday's chat, and it has come full circle. That's all right, and that's okay. I know how to deal with it. Tough skin. Joey, I thought your hand was up. Sorry.
No, I can go though. Let's please fix Zach's Wi-Fi. I just want to end on that note. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say here.
No, I'm good with the chat. I was just letting Paul's message stay here so he gets some more love there in the chat. You don't have to pay us for us to like you, but if you pay us, I might smile and interact with your comments a little bit more. Nerf comes in at the last second. I'm here so I don't get fined. Well, Nerf, you're late. Go ahead and make sure you rewind. You see everything we talked about. Everyone tuning over on Twitter, I don't know how you found us, but we want you to find us again. So go on over to the LTB podcast over on Twitter. Follow us. Follow us individually. Follow all the great contributors that we have who just joined the program. We also, they're joining the old heads, and Frankie and Robbie and Mario. We got Patrick. We got Jason. We got Jacob. I think those are their names. And we have Carter, per usual. Stay safe during the storm, as Dow says. If you're not in Colorado, I don't love you guys, because you get to stay out of this snowpocalypse. I guess Bree will have connection issues next live. Thanks, Broncos Country, for basically sabotaging me. All right, guys, we'll be back on Friday. Tune in. Caden Stearns on the program. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe, because you're watching us right now. Why wouldn't you? It's easy. Click it, and then you can mute the notifications so you never hear from us again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Caden, 6